Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about what mods are needed for your Focus ST to reach a certain amount of horsepower. So we've covered the 250 to 300 wheel horsepower mark and basically explaining what bolt-ons you would need in order to make that happen. If you want to make more than 300 wheel horsepower, this is what you're going to need in order to achieve that. So today we're going to be talking about the 300 to 370 wheel horsepower mark. This is the max range for the stock fuel system for the Focus ST. And you're also going to need a bigger turbo to go past that 300 wheel horsepower mark. Things you're going to need to make this kind of horsepower: first off, you're going to need your full bolt-ons. That's including the 3-inch exhaust setups, the 3-inch intake, a downpipe, a front mount intercooler upgrade. I highly recommend CVF. You got Depot, which is really popular. They got the new Whoosh V3, I believe it is. Then they got the CPE. It's comparable to the Depot. The Garrett core is also really nice. The Garrett and the CVF are really similar. The only difference is the Garrett core is more pricey, and it also has an option which I think is actually pretty cool and unique. It has a blow-off valve option that you can run on the hot side end tank on the intercooler, so that way there you don't have to run it in the charge pipe. So for turbo options, most common turbo ever sold on this car was the 2867 Gen 2. Now you have other options like the G series turbos, you get the BNRs, and you got some EFR turbos still out there lingering. Now Full Race has stopped making the EFR kits, so the only ones that are making it now is Mountoon. Those aren't as popular, but I believe the EFR turbos are the best turbos still out there, even better than G series. That's just my opinion, especially for an internal wastegate setup. Now for an external wastegate, you'd be going with a G series or a GTX series. I recommend getting your turbo kits from Clayton Performance. He can hook you up. You can also set up your own lines if you want. You can piece your own turbo kit. Definitely want to get the scooter elbow if you're going to want to maximize the efficiency of your turbo kit. They also have other turbo kits out there. For example, the CPE atmospheric kit, which is probably the most expensive turbo kit on the market, and it always has been. But I'd say the 2867 Gen 2 or the 25550, for example, which is the newer version, would be the best turbo that would suit this power range right here. Now this is going to be the most reliable power range for stock engine setup with a bigger turbo. So the next thing you need to do is get a custom tune. Now you can pick your own tuner. There's some out there like Ryan at EMS, Alex Stratified. There's, JST. There's also Alan. There's some other people out there that also tune. Definitely just depends on what you're looking for. I would say the most reliable tunes are probably going to be coming from Alex or Alan as far as that goes. They just seem to be more on the safer side of things, in my opinion. So the next thing you need to run is some colder plugs. Now you definitely want to run colder plugs even when you're on the stage 1 setup of a full bolt-on stock turbo. And for that, I would run Brisk RR14YS, which is a projected tip style spark plug. It performs better than an NGK 6510, but it is comparable to those as far as the cold range. Now the Brisk RR14S is 20 degrees Celsius cooler or 68 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than a one-step colder plug. So the Brisk RR14S is between a 1 and 2-step colder plug. For a big turbo setup, I'd recommend a 0.024 to 0.25 gap. So you can refer to your tuner for the spark plug gap, but this is what I recommend. And I guarantee I probably recommend around this range as well. For the stock turbo setup gap, you need a 0.026 28 range, that'd be fine. So the stock fuel limits are between 360 to 370 on the stock high pressure fuel pump. On pump gas, now it's 91 or 93 typically is what you're going to run. So 93 is going to be maxing out around this range. 91 is around 350 to 360. So, and it also depends on the elevation where you're maxing out and how much boost pressure you're going to be pushing. So the higher elevation you are, the more boost pressure you're going to run, allowing your turbo to not be as efficient. I would run around 350 wheel horsepower. I wouldn't max the fuel system out, just so that way there everything lasts longer and it's more reliable. You're not pushing everything on the edge. You also want to make sure that your turbo is bigger or more capable of more horsepower, because that way there, if you plan to build the engine or go past this horsepower mark, say you want to get a 4-port or something, you don't want to be pushing your turbo on the edge either. So you want it to last. At 2867, I would say it should be good around 420 wheel horsepower pretty easily. So you're going to be fine in this range right here for the stock fuel system. And you're going to get the best spool possible. The only other thing I'd probably add to this list, honestly, and you don't need it, but in order to make everything reliable and to keep the pistons cooler and knock down, just say if you have a bad batch of gas or something, you can either add about 2 to 3 gallons, I'd say 2.5 gallons to be on the safe side, or up to E20 of ethanol in the gas tank. So run E20, and you don't need to be tuned for it as long as you're tuned for the 93 or 91, just to bump your octane up so you don't get any knock. Or you can run water methanol. You can run a 250cc nozzle in the charge pipe, and that'll allow you to have an octane bump as well as cooling the charge temps, especially if you live in a hot, desert or somewhere where it's more humid. It's definitely going to help the stock cast pistons because they will fail. Doesn't matter. They will. So cylinder 1 and 4 are the weak points. Generally, those are the ones that are going to go. The ring lands will fail. And here is one of mine. So this is cylinder 1 on mine. The only reason mine failed, and this didn't blow out inside the engine, the rings actually held the piece together, but I actually over boosted on 29 pounds of boost and ran it like that for a little bit, and I had water methanol, so that saved it a lot. But I messed with the setup on the compressor housing, and I forgot to hook up the boost line to it, so over boosted, which was my fault. But that's why I end up having to build my motor in the first place, is because of this. So just keep that in mind. This is the weak point on the Focus ST. Keeping them cool with water methanol will up the reliability, and especially if you don't want to build the motor. So I just highly recommend running a 250cc nozzle. That's all you need. I would get the O.E.M V3 kit from MAP Performance or whoever you want to get it from. They're around $500. I got a video out there that I can provide for a link to install. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this series. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.